Solomon Asch 1951 Conformity Study, and then we got the Philip Zimbardo Stanford Prison Experiment of 1971. There's a movie about the Stanford Prison Experiment, August 1971, and then we got the Solomon Asch 1951 Conformity Study. So we're going to talk about both of those. Apparently, people, Americans, who knows, you just like to fucking conform. You'd rather get the wrong answer than to go against seven other people. Seven other people give a wrong answer. You know the right answer, but you're the last person to say the answer. You'd rather be wrong to go along with the crowd than to be right. Because you're a bunch of conformist pieces of shit. Not only are you a bunch of conformist pieces of shit, and we just learned from this Stanley Milgram experiment that Americans are humans when it comes to susceptibility of being obedient to authority. Stanley Milgram proved that your average human person, American, will shock the shit out of the person next door in the next room for getting a question wrong because the scientist in a lab coat, the authority figure, told you to do so. Well, the authority told me to shock you to death, but I just got the question wrong. What color is the blood of an octopus? It's green. Nope, it's blue. Shock the shit out of them. So we'll talk about a little bit more about the conformity study, but first, let's hear some words from John Wilkes Booth. April 21st, on Friday, he writes in his diary about his own mission. This is the words of John Wilkes Booth. Hold on to your... After being hunted like a dog through swamps and woods, and last night being chased by gunboats until I was forced to return, wet, cold, and starving, with every man's hand against me, and I'm here in despair. And why? For doing what Brutus was honored for, what made William Tell a hero, and yet I, for striking down an even greater tyrant than they ever knew, am looked upon as a common cutthroat. My act was purer than either of theirs. I struck for my country and her alone, a people ground beneath this tyranny, prayed for this end, and yet now see the cold hands they extend to me. God cannot pardon me if I have done wrong, yet I cannot see any wrong except in serving a degenerate people. For my country I have given up all that makes life sweet and holy, brought misery upon my family, and am sure there is no pardon for me in the heavens, since man condemns me so. God, try to forgive me and bless my mother. I have almost a mind to return to Washington and in a measure clear my good name, which I feel that I can do. So he was pretty convinced that he was right. You know, I guess Mary Surratt, he was, looking at Mary Surratt, and I guess when you're hanging out with a bunch of racist piles of shit, it probably does seem like a great idea. But what if you're the only one that took all the racism? All the racists were just being a bunch of blowhard, piles of shit. But you was the dumb bastard that took it serious. We didn't mean it for real, John Wilkes Booth. Abraham Lincoln's, he's a good man, He's like a lot better than us. And then he's like, Brutus was honored. Brutus was honored. In a way, the American Revolution, they honored Brutus because they were saying down with tyrants. And it's clear, he said sic semper tyrannis, so that was clear that he thought what he was doing was good. William Tell, I'm not for sure about William Tell. Wasn't he the guy that put the apple on the sun's head and then they shot an arrow or something? So why did I mention that? It's connected somehow. So conformity, he just conformed with the times, conformed with the people. Susan Boyle, I don't know if you ever seen that Susan Boyle, but she comes out, she's this big, fat, dumpy person, and they're all laughing at her, right? Simon is laughing and the people. And then she sings like a beautiful canary, like an angel. And then we all learned that, we were the assholes. And then we all conformed again and said, okay, so Susan Boyle, you're wonderful. So the conformity study, let's talk about the conformity study. So what did we find out? So what they did is they just had like lines on a piece of paper, right? They had like one line and then one little line, one big line, and then another line that looked the same. And they would just say, you see these lines? You see these lines? Which one looks like the line, which one matches the first line? Is it the first, second, or third? And that was it. So it's pretty much obvious that, the third line is the one that compares to the first line. Clearly, one line was longer. 4, 5, 6, 7 others, actors, stooges, said that it wasn't. So you got, 5, 6 people, we'll say. And they're all lined up in a desk. And you got 5 people. And then you're number 6. Our average Joe American is number 6. And then after having this easy question where it says, okay, which line, is most closely associated with it, the first 5 or 6 people got it all wrong. They said that it was the wrong answer. And when you get to it, it's like, well, shit, do I disbelieve my eyes or do I go along with the crowd? Do I go along with these assholes? And apparently the mark would rather be wrong than to be at odds with the group. 50 males were to do a vision test experiment. The real participant gave his answer last since he was at the end of the road. There was 18 trials. They said there was 12 critical trials where they had given the wrong answers. So overall, 32% conformed. 75% in the 12 critical trials, at least 75% conformed at least once. And 25% never conformed. In the control group, less than 1% got the answers wrong. So when you had no pressure to be, 5 fucking motherfuckers got the shit wrong, and it's like, if I was, the experimenters, if I was one of those 5 people and I said the wrong answer, I would want the last person to go against us. But the part of me wants, hey, why don't you be wrong like we are? It's almost like you want them to be wrong like you, but you wouldn't have respect for them. It's like, dude, you know the fucking right answer. Why did you go along with us? Be right, be correct. Why would you go with the truth? Go with what's correct and right. But this very much compares to Stanley Milgram and Philip Zimbardo. What the fuck is wrong with human nature? Is it American nature? What's going on here? We would rather be wrong. We would rather be wrong than right. We would rather obey authority than to have a conscience, to give a shit about our fellow man. We would rather 32% conform. So 1/3 of the people that did the Asch conformity study, the 1951 Solomon Asch conformity study, conformed. So this is 1950s. You could say this is 1950s America and everybody's pretty cookie cutter. That would be true. 75% conformed at least once. I could see like at the end of the experiment, it's kind of like, man, I'll give them one. I got all the other answers, but they really seem like, but it just shows you exhaustion after, so much time. It's like they just wear you down. Fine. That line is shorter than that one. No, it's not. It's not. I know, I just don't want the ridicule of my social peers. Didn't want to be labeled peculiar or to incur ridicule. That was it. And then some people actually believe that the group knew something more than them. I don't know. I'm looking at these lines here and my eyes are lying to me because clearly the group knows something that I don't know. They said this is the Perrin and Spencer experiment. So there's another experiment. 1 in 396 trials were wrong. So that's not too bad. They were kind of saying that 1950s America, everybody was cookie cutter, the exact same, right? The same damn fucking Model T car, the same damn suburb fucking house, the same damn lawn, same damn nuclear family, same damn religion. So, take that with a grain of salt. The Perrin and Spencer experiment. There's other experiments, but Solomon Asch shows that we would rather give wrong answers. 1/3 of us Americans. 1/3 of us Americans would rather give the wrong answer just so we don't go against the group. And even 1/3 of us, that's not a majority, but eventually the majority, 75%, we are wore down. We are wore down. Even if you stayed strong and you said right answer after right answer, eventually after the 20th time, you give the wrong answer. At least one time you conform. And that's terrible. You don't want people fucking saying shit that they saw is not what they saw just so that they don't go against the group. The group says that line is 3 inches. It's only 1 inch. It doesn't matter. You're going to believe your own eyes. You're going to believe the group. I guess I'll believe the group. Philip Zimbardo. We're going to get to Philip Zimbardo, but first, Let's read this little passage by John Tanner. So John Tanner is this guy. His father's name was John Tanner. Let's see, by the Kentucky River. Okay, while we were living at this place, something happened which I blame for many of the disasters of my later life. One morning, my father had to leave for a distant village, and he gave strict orders to my sisters, Lucy and Agatha, to send me to school, but they neglected to do this until the afternoon. And then by then, the weather had turned rainy and unpleasant, and I insisted on remaining at home. You waited until the afternoon to tell me this? When my father returned at night and found that I had been at home all day, he sent me for a parcel of small canes and flogged me much more severely than I supposed the offense merited. I was displeased with my sisters for placing all the blame on me when it was them who had neglected even to tell me to go to school in the forenoon. From that time, my father's house was less like a home to me, and I often thought and said I wish I could go and live amongst the Indians. So this Elkhorn, Shawnee Indians. Okay, so this is John Tanner, just a little tiny story here. But apparently, he does go live with the Native Americans, but because his household was terrible. So why did his sisters not tell him about the school thing? And then when he was getting spanked and beat up, why didn't the sisters just jump in and say, he had no chance. He had no chance to do right and good in your eyes. We told him in the afternoon, it was rainy. It wasn't fair. But the authority figures, right? You don't want to say something that pisses off the authority figure. So, no, we didn't do nothing wrong. And then they conformed. And then Philip Zimbardo. Okay, so it's all connected somehow. John Tanner. Good old John Tanner. So, Philip Zimbardo. He actually got too involved in this experiment. There's a movie. The movie is great. 2015 Stanford Prison Experiment. Again, we're learning about human nature. We're learning about America. We're learning about who we are and why do we do the things that we do, right? William Glasser, Bobo Doll, 1977. Halo Effect, Howard Gardner's 8 Multiple Intelligences. So we learned with Stanley Milgram that people are going to obey authority, even if it means shocking a poor guy to death over some dumb shit. In the Solomon Asch experiment, the Conformity 1951 conformity study, at least 1/3 of the people tested were conformist, and at least 75% conformed at least one time, saying the wrong answer. Now, A is A, or is it Q? A is A. Everybody else said Q. Oh, well, I mean, it's Q then. Everybody else said it was A is Q. 1 + 1 = 3. Everybody said 1 + 1 = 3. You're going to say 2? Or you're going to say 3? It's 3. No, they said 3. So they must know something I don't know. No, you dumb motherfucking pile of shit. It was an experiment and you just failed, you son of a bitch. You thought you was going along with the crowd and that was going to, what? Protect you? It didn't protect you, you son of a bitch. Now, Philip Zimbardo. So the Stanford Prison Experiment, August 1971. It's a great experiment. Basically, if you dress up as a cop or a jailer, you're going to beat the inmates. If you dress up as a cop, you put on them glasses, and you feel like you're the righteous, good person, and then the people in the jailer suits are the bad guys, the power differential is just too fucking much. Even if you all started out as college students and you just start out as a game, Okay, let's just play a game. Some of us are prisoners and some of us are jailers, and let's see what the fuck happens. What happens is the jailers start beating up the inmates and torturing the inmates and abusing the oppressed. You give some people fucking power and you tell them, you dehumanize them, they're the bad guys, right? You're the good guys, they're the bad guys, but you're the one that had power. You got buddies and you're dressed up in nice uniforms. You wore those mirrored sunglasses. You were dehumanizing. The jailbirds are scantily clad. They're living in oppressed conditions. And then you had that cowboy guy who took over. He watched some movie where it was, seems like we got failure to communicate. But the cowboy guy took over and was like, okay, here, I'm the jailer, right? So you guys are going to do as I tell you. I'm the one in charge around here. The U.S. Office of Naval Research paid for it. It was supposed to last for 2 weeks. It was shut down in 6 days. And that was after they let 3 prisoners be released because they were being traumatized within 4 days. The 2002, The Experiment, BBC showed the 2002, The Experiment, which we saw the prisoners were more assertive. So we got other studies that compare and contrast, right? Zimbardo was actually a part of the movie 2015 Stanford Prison Experiment. So we have, 6 days. It was shut down by Zimbardo himself, Philip Zimbardo. He said he was Italian. And he said he had to go through a lot of shit. And he said there was actually more lynching of Italians in the South than there were of black folks, which I'm not for sure if the numbers bear out, but it does make me think, like, shit, maybe the Italians were getting, some of the biggest brunt of white Anglo-Saxon racism. I'm sure, the Germans and the Irish got it, so why wouldn't the Italians get it too? He's not conforming with the rest of us Anglo-Saxon Christian Eisenhower Republicans. So Zimbardo becomes a part of it. He starts watching this cowboy guy, this jailer, and he's just kind of, enthralled. He just seems to absolutely enjoy the cowboy fucking taking the piss out of these jailbirds. 70 of them applied. 24 of the 70 were picked. They were going to get $15 a day. And they're divided randomly into equal numbers of prisoners and prison guards. So they just drew straws out of a hat. It was just as likely for them to be a prison guard as it was for them to be a prisoner. Then they made it all like it was real. They actually had cops go out and arrest them, quote unquote, and then take them to the prison was just in the Stanford University, just in the hallways, in the prison, the classrooms and the hallways. They just turned the university into a prison. So it wasn't even a real prison. It's not real prison guards. It's not a real prison. Yet they were so into their characters. They were so, basically, if you put on the damn uniform, you're going to beat up the fucking oppressed. Second day was prisoner rebellion. The prison guards, after the second day, used a system of rewards and punishments to divide and conquer. So I think a lot of it has to do with the people that was involved in, but still, 6 days. It was supposed to last for 2 weeks. Why is Zimbardo getting into it? It's like finally he got some power, right? And the whole thing was these damn jailbirds were getting out of the experiment. Then they were like, no, we gotta stop the jailbirds from breaking our experiment. And it was all about, protecting the integrity of the experiment, just like the prods. You remember the 4 prods when it came to the Milgram experiment? Please continue. No, Milgram, you must continue, right? So this is Zimbardo. Zimbardo, please continue with my experiment. No, the experiment requires that you continue. It's absolutely essential that you continue. You got no other choice but to continue. Philip Zimbardo was dating a woman and invited the woman to come see his little experiment, and then she comes down there and just sees that the prison guards are taking the prisoners to go to bathroom, and they got hoods on their heads, and she cried. She freaked the fuck out. She's saying you're dehumanizing. They're just students, and you're sitting there letting one group, be shitty you're torturing them and traumatizing them. And then that's when he kind of snapped out of it and was like, oh shit, I got to call this experiment. I got to pull the plug on this experiment. But we learn a ton. We learn a ton. So I'm kind of glad that he lasted for 6 days, and I hope that there wasn't. I've seen the movie, and I've seen that the cowboy guy. So you had like the cowboy guy, and then you had like the main victim, and the main victim, they were talking afterwards, and they were kind of, just discussing their experiences. And the main victim says, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. So, I don't know why you would, why you were doing what you were doing, but I know fundamentally, you weren't trying to be bad. And then the cowboy was like, no, I was trying to be bad. I was supposed to be a jail guard, right? A prison guard. And I saw this movie, the failure to communicate, and I was just really cowboying it up. And he's like, you don't even know me, so why would you presume that I was good or bad? And so and then the prisoner, there's one scene where he's like, I don't know, I just gotta leave. I gotta leave. Why do you need to leave? Because I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm just a number. They've dehumanized me. I used to be Fred Flintstone, but now I'm just goddamn motherfucking 4932. And it's fucking me up inside. It's fucking me up inside. And that tells me that, people who are genuine and good and decent, when they're being oppressed, they don't understand what that actually does to the person, and everybody's going along with this shit. But it's like, we're just playing a game here, but it's like fucking shit. It's the social, the ridicule, the ostracization, the exilement. What do the fucking Catholics do? The fucking excommunication sort of shit. No, we get to eat the good food and tell you what to do, and then they're sitting there making them do push-ups and withholding their food and this and that. And then they voted 3-on-1. Well, 3 said they were going to give up their pillows and said, nope, you got to keep doing what you're doing. So in a way, the cowboy guy kind of made it look cool, right, to be a prison guard. And then after 6 days was over, he's like, we still getting paid? We're getting paid for the full 2 weeks, right? Like, this has only been 6 days. Like, this wasn't, we get paid for the full. And so it was interesting that the victim had thought that the perpetrator still had an ounce of goodness in him. And then the perpetrator was like, no, I was being cruel to you guys. And so that's Jordan Peterson. People are traumatized by wickedness. Yeah, how could you? How could you? How dare, I would never do that to you. We were just playing a game. We're just prison guards. Why would you actually like hurt people or torture them or kind of like look down your nose at them like they're fucking trash? We were just in the classroom and I was right next to you, you son of a bitch. You're just as powerless as I am. We're all powerless here. We're all a bunch of powerless students. And if I was a prisoner, I would be pissed off that the prison guards are taking it so goddamn serious. This is just an experiment, right? I mean, why are you taking it so fucking serious? And it's like, hey, it's my chance I got the power. It's my chance to shine. We got some more psychology experiments. A class divided. Harry Harlow. The Harry Harlow one is pretty interesting. Learned helplessness. Bobo doll monster experiment. The stutter thing. 1977, the halo effect. So there you go. There you go. That is Philip Zimbardo, the Stanford prison experiment, and the 1951 Solomon Asch conformity study. You conformist bastards, you motherfucking obedient to authority sons of bitches. Don't y'all have a fucking conscience? The way that you stand up to an authoritarian piece of shit is you make sure that you are strong individually and that you have standards. Even fucking Dexter's got a damn code. Even Dexter has a fucking code. And like Bass Reeves says, if you don't have a code, what do you got? You got nothing. You got nothing. That's Bass Reeves. Don't tell me you don't know who Bass Reeves is.